Welcome to the Pathmonk Presents podcast. My name is Sean Donnelly Lewis, and in today's episode, we're speaking with Katie Lacy. She is the marketing manager over at FrontSpin.com. Katie, how's it going?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, doing all right. Tell us all about FrontSpin. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so FrontSpin, we are a sales engagement platform with a power dialer. So what we do is we automate the entire sales process with our phone, with email, with social touches, SMS. That's all in one interface. So you can do that all within FrontSpin.
Okay, so you guys servicing big companies, small companies, mom and pop companies that are trying to automate some things. Talk about your clientele for a second.
Yeah, so we really, our major clientele is lead gen agencies, so outsourcers. That really is the bulk of our business. So really making anything that is the inside sales focused, elevating their job.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and have you guys been able, how have you been able to grow the company? Has it been a lot of inbound? You guys are doing outbound, and which avenues are you using for each?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. So before I started in terms of marketing, it was just word of mouth growth. I'm the first person that has joined the team in a marketing role. So it was really happy customers talking to happy customers saying, hey, we're using FrontSpin. We're able to see this kind of growth with our SDRs. You should check them out. So when I joined last year, I joined the team last June. We really took that growth up, really focusing on content, making sure that we're putting out content that is smart and engaging for the customers that are already happy with our product. So we've seen a lot of growth with that.
Okay. And what role does the website play in acquiring new clients?
Yeah, so like I just mentioned, in terms of content, I've built out with my CEO, we've built out e-courses for SDRs. So sales development reps are that kind of front line in an outsourcing company. They are the people who are setting the appointments, getting those bookings to be able to pass off to the account reps to actually close those sales. So when somebody comes into that SDR role, typically they're really young, they're really green in terms of making phone calls, leaving voicemails, being able to get around those gatekeepers. There's a science to knocking down those walls and really getting to the yes people. So we've built an e-course that is for those green bean SDRs, if you will. So teaching them how to write an email, how to make a cold call, like I mentioned before, how to get around those gatekeepers. And so we have built these e-courses and they live on frontspin.com. And then we also serialize them through our blog. Then we can use that content through LinkedIn as well. So it's really driving that, that traffic back to our site so that people are checking out the full videos and then just picking up those concepts that we're helping them with.
Very cool. And usually when I have marketeers on the show, there's a lot that they're excited about the website, but there's also things where they feel like if they could change it a little bit, then the whole thing would run better. If you were to upgrade or improve one aspect of the website, what would it be? Would it be the ability to convert, the quality of leads, or the user experience?
Yeah, I think that, in marketing, obviously, sometimes it's hard to measure exactly what we're doing. We can put out a lot of content and we can, add tracking and do all of the things that will show that ROI, but sometimes it's hard to see, like, how is this converting? So I think that if we can implement more of that conversion, making sure that that content is landing in the right inboxes, that way we can kind of optimize our sends, making sure that we are reaching the right customer, somebody that would actually benefit from the FrontSpin product as well as the content that we're putting out there.
And coming back to the service that you guys offer, just for everyone listening, what would you say separates you from other people that occupy the same space? Or is there anybody else doing this? I don't know.
There
It's not
are.
your thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
there are. There are a lot of different, power dialers that are on the market. Something unique about FrontSpin is that we're self-funded. So we haven't raised millions and millions of dollars. So we are doing everything, like I just mentioned, self-funded. And so really building the product from the ground up, our focus is our phone. Like our phone system is fantastic, and being able to get that into the hands or the ears, if you will, of different SDRs and AEs, and being able to improve their lead gen on that side is really our focus. So that phone, where it might not be a sexy thing, as my VP of sales likes to say, but we really work hard on creating that user experience that generates that lead generation.
Yeah. And this is a part of the show where I get to pick your brain as a marketeer. So when I say something like innovation, in your experience, what would be the biggest marketing challenge to innovation?
Yeah, so I think obviously going through this last year, in terms of the pandemic, everybody, we all went through it across the world. And so being able to step into a role in the middle of a pandemic and learn, exactly what the role looks like, who our clients are, what are their needs, learning all of that. You have to be innovative. You have to be able to pivot and turn on a dime in a moment's notice. And I think that this last year has specifically taught us that, people who are having in-person events have to go to webinars. And so being able to still reach your clients and still being able to anticipate their needs, even through a global pandemic, I think has brought on a lot of innovation.
Yeah, and you're saying that we're going through a pandemic. Some of us are still going through it over here in Europe. We're not at the end yet. But keeping the same line of thinking, when I say something like ROI, what would you say is the biggest challenge in marketing for ROI?
Yeah, I mentioned that before. I think that there's a lot of tools and things that you can put into place that when you are putting out content, you have UTMs and you can track and see all of that. There's a lot of branding that sometimes you're just putting out there that's hard to track. It's just brand awareness. And so being able to keep that consistent in terms of what is content that is actually trackable versus just brand assets, that's a little bit more murky in terms of being able to track it. So I think that ROI for the brand awareness specifically is a little bit more tricky. I like things that I can track. I like being able to pull up my analytics and see who's coming here, where they came from, how long they were on my page. I like that part because my CEO is going to say, all right, let's talk about this. What's working? And I need to have data to back that up. And so I think brand awareness is definitely the muddy waters, if you will, of marketing that's what I've run into.
And so when it comes to the different steps in marketing, which one do you feel like is the thing? If you were to improve this, you think if I were to improve this step, then the whole thing would be better. Would that be the road mapping, the growth initiatives, the messaging, or the reporting?
That's a really good question. So I think that to have a successful campaign, you need to start at the first step, which is really having that clean data. And that's something that stepping into this role, I've kind of evangelized of like, it's great if we have all of this data, but if they're not our customer, we're just going to annoy these people and then they're going to unsubscribe from our emails and it's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth. So I think that really starting from the beginning and making sure that you set yourself up for success by having that clean data, pulling those data sets that actually make sense for the campaign that you're doing. And then everything else kind of falls into place in terms of like content creation and then the way that you actually send it out, whether it's email or social. But really starting with that clean data, making sure that you know who you're talking to and the messaging that you're giving them is relevant, is super important, because otherwise it's just annoying them.
Right. You don't have that, like you're saying, you don't have that actual, here's what it's done, like we went from here to here through the campaign. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind switching gears a little bit and talking about you as a leader. What kind of content do you consume to educate yourself and grow as a person and as a professional?
Yeah, so I think that is something that as a marketer, I consume content all of the time. And so I kind of frame the content that I put out there in the same way that I consume it. So if I'm going to listen to a podcast, it's most likely going to be 20 minutes. It's not going to be a 2-hour podcast. So I really shape the content that I put out there the same way that I consume it. In terms of what I do, I read a lot. I'm reading Atomic Habits right now by James Clear. That's a fantastic book if anybody wants to read it.
I've read it
really,
actually.
really
Yeah.
Yeah. Great tips, great takeaways. I think just immersing myself. I knew nothing about the SDR role whenever I started here at FrontSpin. I had a background in higher education. So connecting with other thought leaders in the SDR realm on LinkedIn, reading their posts, really getting to know them and understanding the role, I think is a big part of being able to market to those people. You have to understand, their trials, what they're going through in order to create content that's actually going to speak to them and be beneficial, which is pretty much the point of what we're doing. We want things to be helpful and beneficial and, build that brand.
We are slowly coming to the end of the episode, but before we end, I would like to throw some rapid fire questions your way. Just short and sweet, but answer as honestly as possible. How's that sound?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So you said you were reading James Clear right now, but before that, let's say, what was their last favorite book that you read? How about that?
So I'm also reading The Lovely Bones. It's been sitting on my bookshelf for a while. I didn't really have anything that was fiction to pick up. Before that, I read Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which was phenomenal. I absolutely love that. I guess during the pandemic in the last year, I've kind of gravitated more to like self-help, like let's, get everything put together inside. That's what we can control because we can't control the outside. We can't control what's going on. The world was pretty crazy. So you have to just start inside. And that book was fantastic for that. I really, really
that makes sense to stay even motivated, right? Like, because it feels like you can just kind of get pulled back by the tide of, I don't know, laziness and being a slob. At least maybe that's just too revealing on my end. Okay. What is the single thing that your company is focused on at the moment the most?
Say that again?
What's the single thing that your company is focused on right now the most?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest one is, like I mentioned before, is that lead gen agency, getting our messaging out there, making sure that outsourcers know that FrontSpin is a great fit for them. We've also created a outsourcing directory, which is outsourcingloop.com, which is a directory of outsourcers. So people who are looking for an outsourcer can go to outsourcingloop.com. They can see a list of our outsourcers, and then we match them with the right one. So that's been a really fun project to get to build from the ground up. So yeah.
Very cool. What is the last thing that kept you awake at night about your company?
You know what? I have to tell you, this role and this last year has been really peaceful. And I know that probably a lot of people, I don't know if they can speak to that. This team is small, but it is very friendly, very willing to help. I think that sometimes as marketers, we can have almost that imposter syndrome feeling of, I'm supposed to know all of this stuff. And it's true, you know a lot of things, but you're not going to know everything. And when you step into a new role where you don't have a lot of experience in that specific sector, it's okay to ask questions, and you should raise your hand and you should say, I know a lot of things, but I don't know everything, and I need help with this part. And my team has 100% stepped up and been willing to help me navigate and answer my questions. And honestly, I'm so thankful for that.
All right, everyone. That was Katie Lacy. You can check out all the great work they're doing at frontspin.com. Katie, thank you so much for being on the show today. The last order of business is the last word. So if you want to sum up everything that we talked about today, or you feel like there's something that we forgot, I just want to give you the last word. The floor is yours.
Oh, great. Oh, okay. Now we are on on the spot. I think I just really want people to understand that FrontSpin can add so much benefit to your different roles with the inside sales. Your reps will see a huge amount of lead generation by using FrontSpin. And the company that I work for is fantastic. I love my team, like I mentioned before. They're passionate about what they do, and they actually care about our clients, which I don't want to say is rare, but it's not just all talk. They really do care. And I think that means a lot for the company culture, which then pours into our clients as well.
Great. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.